Good evening, class. We will now be discussing PSA 500, Audit Evidence. So, number 1, it refers to all the information used by the auditor in arriving at conclusion on which the audit opinion is based and includes the information contained in the accounting records underlying the financial statements and other information. A, is it substantive procedure? Or B, is it analytical procedure? C, test of control? And D, audit evidence. Since ang ating topic sa gabing ito ay audit evidence, so supposedly, yan ay audit evidence, no? So that is letter D. That's actually the definition of audit evidence, okay? Number 2, according to PSA 500 revised, audit evidence will comprise of the following except. So, ang hinahanap dito, yung mali. Ano dyan ang hindi kasama sa audit evidence? So, A, source document. So, syempre kasama yan. B, accounting records. Kasama din yan. C, other information within or outside the entity. So, kasama rin yan kasi kumukuha ka nga, di ba, ng confirmation. So, those are also external information or information from external sources. So, ang tamang sagot ay letter D. Okay? Letter D. Dahil yan ang mali. Number 3. Appropriateness means, o madalas kong sabihin sa inyo kung ano ang ibig sabihin ng appropriateness. So, letter A, measure of the quantity of audit. So, since quantity yan ay sufficiency. Tama? Sufficiency. Yeah, sufficiency. Kunyari, tama ang spelling ko. Letter B, measure of the quality. O dahil quality yan ang appropriateness. Okay, kunyari tama din ang spelling ko. So sa letter C, related to material of the financial statement assertion affected. So since materiality yan ay significance. And letter D, level of report of information subject to the audit is free of material misstatement. O since yan ay report ng freedom from material misstatement, that is assurance. So ang tamang sagot ay letter B. Okay? Number 4. Sufficiency is the measure of the quantity of audit evidence, while appropriateness is the measure of the quality of audit evidence. Yun lang yung pinag-usapan natin kanina. So accordingly, the sufficiency and appropriateness of audit evidence are most likely what? A, indirectly related, B, parallel, C, interrelated, and D, directly related. So the correct answer is letter C, interrelated. Okay? Next question, number 6. Oh, sorry, number 5 pa lang pala. The reliability of audit evidence is influenced by its source and by its nature and is dependent on the individual circumstances under which it is obtained. Which of the following statement is least likely reliable as audit evidence. So ang hinahanap mo, least likely, yung karaniwang hindi mo pagbabasihan na audit evidence. So, letter A, audit evidence is generally reliable when it exists in paper, electronic, or other medium. So, yan daw ba ay ginagamit mo kapag nakalagay sa paper or ito ba ay electronic or other medium? B, audit evidence provided by photocopies or facsimiles are generally reliable. So, mga photocopy lang or mga fax machine print out lang ay pwede na rin bang reliable source of audit evidence? C, audit evidence obtained indirectly by the auditor is less reliable that ganyan na audit evidence obtained directly. So tama ba itong statement na to? Na yung audit evidence na hindi nakuha direkta ni auditor ay mas mababa ang reliability kaysa dun sa nakuha niyan directly? And letter D, audit evidence that is generated internally is generally reliable when the related controls imposed by the entity. So pagka daw ba merong control ay mapagkakatiwalaan mo na yung evidence generated internally. So ano ang pinaka mahina o ano ang pinaka mali dyan sa mga statement na yan? Siyempre, letter A, yan ay tama. Kasi talaga namang ang audit evidence nakukuha mo na nakalagay sa paper, electronic, or other medium. Yung letter D naman ay syempre kapag ka meron namang gumagaan ng internal controls, pwede mong pagkatiwalaan ang mga internally generated na audit evidence. Kaya lang kapag ang internal control ay hindi mapagkakatiwalaan, usually hindi mo din ginagamit yung mga internally generated audit evidence. Yun daw, audit evidence obtained indirectly, hindi mismo si auditor nakakita, ibang tao, ay mas hindi ka panipaniwalang audit evidence kumpara kapag ka ang mismong audit evidence ay nakuha ng auditor ng direkta. Siya ang mismong nakakuha ng audit evidence. So tama ito. Mas maganda ang directly na nakuha ng auditor na audit evidence kaysa dun sa indirect na nakuha niya. Okay? So ang tamang sagot, letter B kasi siya ang pinaka maling statement. Okay? So yan yung mga pwede nating rules or standard sa mga audit evidence. No? Audit evidence is more reliable when it is obtained from independent sources outside the entity. Audit evidence that is generated internally is more reliable when the related controls imposed by the entity are effective. Audit evidence obtained directly by the auditor is more reliable than audit evidence obtained indirectly or by interference. Audit evidence is more reliable when it exists in documentary form, whether paper, electronic, or other medium. And audit evidence provided by original documents is more reliable. Original, hindi photocopy or facsimile copies lang. Okay? So, ang pinakamali dyan ay letter B. So, everything else are correct. Okay? Number 6, test of controls is blank. So, ano daw ang test of controls? So, ang A are intended to detect that material misstatement in the financial statement accounts. B are concerned with how internal control policies or procedures are applied. C are evaluations of financial information made by a study of plausible relationship among both financial and non-financial data. And D are procedures that lend hindsight to amounts and information disclosed to financial statements as of the balance sheet date. So ano ang test of control? So usually yan, yung internal control policies or procedures. So letter B. Okay? Yan. Number 7, ano naman daw yung substantive test? A are intended to detect material misstatement at the assertion level. B are concerned with how internal control policies or procedures are applied. C are evaluations of financial information made by a study of plausible relationships among both financial and non-financial data. And D are procedures that lend hindsight to amounts and information disclosed in financial statements as of the balance sheet date. So, syempre hindi na B yan. Kasi ito na nga yung test of controls na eh. So, wag mo nang huhulaan kung hindi mo alam ang sagot dyan, ha? So, A, C, and D na lang. So, since substantive test ang pinag-uusapan, yan yung detection of material misstatement at the assertion level. So, ano yan? Letter A. Okay? Letter A. Next, number 8. As per PSA 500 revised, the auditor obtains audit evidence to draw reasonable conclusions on which to base the audit opinion by performing one or more of the following procedures. Except, ano ang hindi mo ginagawa sa pagkuha ng audit evidence, no? Na pagbabasihan mo ng audit opinion mo. So ano-ano diyan? Letter. So inspection syempre, yan na ginagawa mo. Observation, ginagawa mo din yan. And inquiry and confirmation, ginagawa mo. So wala sa listahan ng mga procedures to obtain audit evidence ang letter D, yung computation. Wala diyan. So ito yung listahan ng mga procedures na dapat mong gawin sa pag-obtain ng audit evidence. Okay? Next, number 9. According to PSA 500 revised, financial statement assertion means A. Test performed to obtain audit evidence about the suitability of design and effective operation of the accounting and internal control systems. B. Test performed to obtain audit evidence to detect material misstatements in financial statements. C. Means all the information used by auditor in arriving at the conclusion on which the audit opinion is based. And the assertions by management, explicit or implicit assertion that are embodied in financial statements. So ano daw ulit yung management assertions or financial statement assertions, since ang FS ay responsibility ni management, so management assertions din ng financial statement. Tama ba ako? So ano dyan yon? So yan yung mga assertion ni management. Sinabi ko na nga sa iyo eh, kasi siya din yon. So letter D. Okay? Letter D. So yung A daw ay test of controls, yung B substantive procedures, and C audit evidence. So yan yung mga definition nito. Okay? So again, ito ay substantive test. Ito ay test of controls. Ito ay test of controls to. Ito ay substantive test. At ito ay definition ng audit evidence. So yung management assertion, financial statement assertion, yung letter D. Okay? Next, number 10. The auditor should use assertions for classes of transactions, account balances, and presentation and disclosures in sufficient detail to form a basis for the assessment of risk of material misstatement and the design and performance of further audit procedures. Which of the following is assertion most likely include in assertions for classes of transactions and events, account balances, and presentation and disclosure? Ano daw dyan? So A, occurrence, B, completeness, C, classification, and D, rights and obligation. So ang hinahanap sa'yo dito, kung ano daw dyan, yung assertion sa mga classes of transactions, events, on account balances, and presentation and disclosures. So usually yan, letter B, completeness. Okay? Number 11. Which of the following is least likely? Least likely ang hinahanap, yung hindi tama, included in assertions about classes of transactions and events of the period under audit. Yung period under audit ang tinatanong sa'yo dito. So ano-ano ba yan? Kapag ka period under audit, dahil periodical yan, yung yung mga assertions tungkol sa income statement. So ang mga kasama sa income statement assertions ay ito: occurrence, completeness, accuracy, cut-off, and classification. Yung letter D na existence ay hindi kasama kasi yun ay assertion sa balance sheet, hindi sa income statement. Okay? Number 12. Which of the following is least likely, again, least likely yan, included in the assertion about account balances at period end? So sa period end, ang tinatanong dyan, ang mga choices, valuation and allocation, completeness, classification, and existence. Sa period ending daw ay ano ang hindi kasama sa mga assertions? So ito yung mga account balances at period end, existence, right and obligations, completeness, and valuations and allocations. Hindi kasama si classification, si letter C. Number 13. Which of the following combination is least likely included in assertions about presentation and disclosure? So ito ay uh, sa notes to financial statement. Oh, sorry, nagkamali ako sa 11 at sa 12 ha. Yung sa 11 yung sa balance sheet, yung 12 sa income statement. Okay? Sa 13, ang hinahanap ay notes to financial statement. Ano ang mga assertions na ginagawa sa notes to financial statements? A. Occurrence and rights and obligations. B. Valuation and allocation. C. Classification and understanding. And D. Accuracy and valuation. Ang tamang sagot, kasi siya yung mali, ang hinahanap mo ay least likely, letter C. Dahil wala diyan ang classification, sorry, letter C ay ang nandiyan ay classification and understandability, hindi classification and understanding. Okay? Ayan, understandability, ano yun dyan. Ang nasa choices mo, understanding. So sa boyfriend, maganda ang understanding the boyfriend. Pero sa assertion sa notes to financial statement, huwag kang kukuha ng understanding. Dapat understandability. So letter C. Okay? 14. Confirmation is, what do we mean by confirmation? A. The process of obtaining a representation of information of an existing condition directly from the third party. B. Consists of checking the mathematical accuracy of documents or records. C. Looking at a process or procedure being performed by others. And D. Consists of seeking information of knowledgeable persons, both financial and non-financial, throughout the entity or outside the entity. So ang definition ng confirmation dyan is letter A. No? Obtaining representation of information of an existing condition. Kaya i-confirm mo na lang. Kasi yung B, since yan ay mathematical accuracy, yan ay recalculation. Yung C, dahil looking ka lang, yan ay observation. At yung seeking information ka, yan ay inquiry. Okay? Ito ay recalculation, ito ay observation, ito ay inquiry. Recalculation, observation, inquiry. Ang confirmation, yung letter A. Okay? Okay. So next up, we will discuss another PSA. Mag-share screen lang ulit ako ng panibagong PowerPoint. So next natin ay PSA 520, Analytical Procedures. Ayusin ko lang ha. Nagkakagulo pa. Okay, number 1. It means the analysis of significant variations and trends, including the resulting investigation of fluctuations and relationship that are inconsistent with other relevant information or which deviate from predicted amounts. So dahil ang pinag-uusapan natin ay analytical procedure, very obvious na ang sagot dapat dyan ay letter C, analytical procedures. Okay? Yan ang definition ni analytical procedures. Number 2, analytical procedures are, letter A, intended to detect material misstatements in financial statement accounts. B, are concerned with how internal policies or procedures are applied. C, are evaluations of financial information made by a study of plausible relationship among both financial and non-financial data. And D, are procedures that lend hindsight to amounts and information disclosed in the financial statement as of the balance sheet date. So obviously, dahil analytical procedures ang hinahanap, ang ating titingnan lagi dyan, relationships. So letter C. Analytical procedure is letter C. Okay? Number 3, a basic premise underlying the application of analytical procedure is that, letter A, the study of financial relations is an acceptable alternative to the investigation of unusual fluctuations. Pero pwede na bang alternative ang analytical procedures kapag may mga unusual fluctuations? Pwede mo na siyang gamitin as audit evidence. B, statistical tests of financial information may lead to discovery of material errors in financial statements. Enough na ba na ang statistical test ay magiging basis mo na meron talagang material errors in the financial statements? C, plausible information or relationship, among data may reasonably be expected to exist and continue in the absence of known conditions to the contrary. Expected ba yon na magtutuloy siya, magko-continue kapag absent ang known, ang known conditions to the contrary? Or letter D, these procedures cannot replace test of balances and transactions. So anong pinakatamang premise dyan? Letter C. Again, plausible relationship. Letter C. Okay? Mag-charge lang ako. Number 4. Which of the following statements, which of the following statements is true about analytical procedures? A, analytical procedures must be performed at the very end of each audit engagement. B, analytical procedures are usually carried out as part of the auditor's assessment of control risk. C, analytical procedures must be carried out as part of the auditor's substantive testing to reduce the detection risk. And D, analytical procedures are often performed early in an audit as part of the assessment of inherent risk, but such work is not required. So ano daw ang tama o totoo? So usually yan, letter A. Analytical procedures must be performed at the very end, okay, of the audit engagement. Okay? So yan yung mga tamang statements na dapat mong alalahanin kapag pinag-uusapan ay analytical procedures. Okay? Number 5. According to PSA 520, analytical procedures include the consideration of comparisons of entities' financial information with, so ang ihahanapin mo daw, incorrect statement. Lahat yan ay tama maliban sa isa. A, comparable information from prior periods. Yes, this is correct since nagko-compare tayo ng mga yearly accounts or yearly balances. B, anticipated results of the entity such as budgets or forecast or expectations of the auditor such as an estimation or depreciation. Yes, this is also correct since gumagamit tayo ng trends. Tama? C, similar industry information such as a comparison of the entity's ratio of sales to accounts receivable with industry average or with other entities of comparable size in the same industry. Again, pwede rin tayo mag-compare ng relationship ng mga accounts ng isang company sa iba pang company. So kung tama rin ang letter C, so supposedly letter D ang mali. Industry information such as a comparison of entities' ratio of sales to accounts receivable with industry average or with other entities of comparable size in the industry. So dapat similar industry ang pinag-uusapan. Okay? So letter D. Okay? Next, number 6. As per PSA 520, analytical procedures are used for the following purposes, except, so ang hinaharap dito ulit ay yung maling statement. So A, to assist the auditor in planning the nature, timing, and extent of other audit evidences. B, are usually carried out as part of the auditor's assessment of control risk. C, as substantive procedures when there can be more effective or efficient than test of details in reducing detection risk for specific financial statement assertions. And letter D, as an overall review of financial statements in final review stage of the audit. Actually, lahat yan ay tama maliban sa letter B. Okay? Wala yan sa mga purposes ng PSA 520 or analytical procedures. Ito kasi yung mga purposes niya. Yeah. Yung letter B ay wala dyan. Okay. Next, number 7. According to PSA 520, analytical procedures, the extent of reliance that auditor places on the results of analytical procedures depends on the following except. So ano ang ginagamit mo na basis of reliance sa analytical procedures? Lahat actually yan ay tama maliban sa isa. A, materiality of the items involved. B, other audit procedures directed towards the same audit objectives. C, accuracy with which the expected results of analytical procedures can be predicted. And D, assessment of audit risk. So ano ang mali dyan? Yung letter D. Kasi hindi audit risk. Dapat yan ay inherent risk and control risk. Okay? A, B, and C are all correct except letter D kasi hindi po assessment of audit risk kundi assessment of inherent risk and control risk. Okay? Number 8. Significant unexpected fluctuation identified by analytical procedures will usually necessitate what? A, consistency qualification. B, review of internal control. C, explanation in the representation letter. Or D, audit investigation. Kapag nakakita ka ng significant fluctuation, di ba? Sabi ko nga sa graph, mga ganyan lang yung movement, bigla na lang tumaas na ganon. So that is very unexpected. Tama? So kapag nakakita ka ng ganyan sa iyong trend, sa iyong analytical procedures, ang dapat na mangyari o gawin ng auditor ay magkaroon ng auditor investigation. Okay? Letter D. Number 9. The auditor notices significant fluctuations in key elements of the company's financial statements. If management is unable to provide an acceptable explanation, the auditor should blank. Ano ang dapat gawin ng auditor? A. Consider the matter as a scope limitation. B. Perform additional audit procedures to investigate the matter further. C. Intensify the examination with the expectation of detecting management fraud. Or D. Withdraw from the engagement. So, syempre, pag nakita mo itong A tsaka B, magkasundo sila. So, hindi naman pa pwedeng magkaparehong tama, di ba? So, since sila ay magkasundo, pwede silang parehong mali. Di ba? Oh, ang hinahanap mo, significant fluctuations. Tama? Nasagot mo na kanina yung significant fluctuations na dapat daw pag nakakita ka ng significant fluctuations, significant unexpected fluctuations, dapat daw ay mag-investigate further ka. Tama? So, dapat letter B, investigate further. Okay? Tinuturuan din kita ng mga paraan para magbawas ng mga pagpipilian para mas madaling sagutin or hulaan kung sakaling kinakailangan mo manghula ng tamang sagot. Okay? Number 10. When analytical procedures identify significant fluctuations or relationship that are inconsistent with other relevant information or that deviate from predicted amounts, the auditor should A. Investigate and obtain adequate explanations and appropriate corroborative evidence. B. Consider the scope limitation. C. Perform audit procedures to further know the information. And D. Withdraw from the engagement. Again, sabi dyan, meron kang significant fluctuations, hanap ka na naman ng investigation. Meron ka ba nakitang investigate dyan? Yes, letter A, investigate. So usually, yan ang tamang sagot. Okay? Again, yung B tsaka D, magkasundo. So usually, parehong mali. Kasi magkasundo sila. Diba? Hindi naman pa pwedeng parehong tama. Isa lang dapat ang tama. So antimano, alisin mo na siya. Okay? Letter A. Okay? So let us move for another PSA. Okay? Mag-share lang ulit ako ng panibagong screen, ha? Now we will discuss about PSA 530, audit sampling. So, ayusin ko lang. Number 1, as per PSA 530, when designing audit procedures, the auditor should determine appropriate means for selecting items for testing as to gather audit evidence to meet the objective of hahanap ka ng items for testing. So anong objective yan? Yan ay para sa, of course, audit test. Okay? Letter C. Number 2, it involves the application of audit procedures to less than 100% of items which within an account balance or class of transactions or less than 100%. So supposedly, pagka kumukuha ka ng less than 100% para siyang i-audit mo, audit sampling yan. Okay, kasi kapag yung buong 100%, yan ay the whole population na. Okay? So letter C. 3, it means the entire set of data from which a sample is selected and about which the auditor wishes to draw conclusions. O, nabanggit ko na kanina yung sagot. Naunahan ko naman kasi yung tanong. O, siya tinatanong dito, yung complete set, di ba? Yung complete set or entire set, 100% yan. Kapag ka entire set, 100%. Again, pag 100%, ano yan? Population. Letter D. Okay? Naunahan ko tuloy yung tanong. Number 4. What do we mean by tolerable error? So, ano daw ang ibig sabihin ng tolerable error? A, an error that arises from an isolated event that has not recurred other than on specifically identifiable occasions and is therefore not representative of error in the population. B, risk that arises from possibility that auditor's conclusion based on a sample may be different from the conclusion reached if the entire population were subjected to same audit procedures. C, it is either control deviations when performing test of control or misstatement when performing substantive test or some substantive procedures. Or D, the maximum error in a population that the auditor is willing to accept. So ano yan? So yung A, yan ay ano? Yung A ay anomalous error. Anomalous error. Yung B, yan ay sample risk. Sample risk. At yung C, yan ay error. So wala ka ng ibang sagot kundi letter D. Tolerable yung maximum error. Okay? Letter D. Okay? Number 5. Sampling unit means definition of sampling units is the process of dividing a population into subpopulation, each of which is a group of sampling units which have similar characteristics, often monetary value. B, the individual items constituting a population. C, risk from factors cause the auditor to reach an erroneous conclusion for any reason not related to the size of the sample. And D, the maximum error in a population that the auditor is willing to accept. Okay, nakasagot mo na sa number 4 yung D, di ba? Tolerable error yan. So, hindi na yan nasagot. Di ba? Tatlo na lang kayo na pamimilian mo. Yung A is the process of dividing population. Meron kang division or dividing, ang tawag yan ay stratification. No? Strat or stratification dahil may dividing. Siyempre, yung B at C na lang ang pagpipilian mo ay yung C, risk. Di hindi sampling unit yan. Yung risk na yan, isang uri ng risk yan at karaniwan yan dahil yan ay not related to the size of the sample. Yan ay non-sampling risk. Non-sampling risk. Okay? So, ang tamang sagot na lang yung B, sampling unit. The individual items constituting a population is sampling unit. Okay? So, yan ang pag-aaral ng mga choices para alam mo kung ano-ano rin yung mga pagpipilian. Okay? Number 6. Which of the following is not an element of non-sampling risk? Ano daw dyan ang not an element, ha? Tinatanong not an element. A, the auditor uses inappropriate procedures in auditing account receivables. B, misinterpretations of audit evidence. C, the use of unreasonably small sample size. And the auditor fails to recognize the error in the sample. O non-sampling risk ang tinatanong dyan, di ba? So since non-sampling risk dyan, dapat walang kinalaman sa sampling. Okay? So ano ang tamang sagot dyan? Letter C. Okay? The use of unreasonably small sample size. Lahat ito yung mga elements, no? Number 7. The risk of incorrect acceptance and the likelihood of assessing control risk to low relate to what? So ano daw yung the risk of incorrect acceptance, no? Saan daw siya nare-relate? A, allowable risk if tolerable misstatement. Intolerable misstatement. B, preliminary estimates of materiality levels. C, efficiency of the audit. And D, effectiveness. Since ang risk of incorrect acceptance, tinanggap mo na mali yung tinanggap mo, yan ay may kinalaman sa effectivity ng iyong audit, di ba? Ng iyong audit. So, yan ay letter D, effectiveness. Kapag ka ah, tinanggap mo ng mali, no? May risk na mali yung pagkakatanggap mo, effectiveness ang pinag-uusapan dyan. Okay? Yan yan. Okay, number 7. Sorry, number 8. In assessing sampling risk, the risk of incorrect rejection naman and the risk of assessing control risk to high relate to the what. So pinag-uusapan dito, incorrect rejection. Yung kanina, incorrect acceptance. Nagkamali ka. Tama naman pala, pero nireject mo. Tama yung ipinapakita sa atin ng sample, pero nireject mo kasi duda ka. So ang naaapektuhan doon, efficiency. So letter C. Kapag ka incorrect acceptance, tinatanggap mo yung sinasabi ng sample pero sa totoo lang, hindi naman yun yung sinasabi ng buong population. Di ba? Kumuha ka lang ng sample. Ito yung buong population. Di ba? Ang kinuha mo lang sample ito. For example, yung sample na nakuha mo puro itim. Pero yung buong sample, yung buong population pala puti. Sabi mo, ay, dahil nakuha kong sample ay itim, yung buong population ay itim. So tinanggap mo siya. Incorrect acceptance. Di ba? So, effective ba yung ginawa mong sampling? Hindi. Kasi hindi representative ng nakuha mong impormasyon yung buong population. Kaya ang tawag doon, effectiveness of the audit. Pero ang tinatanong sa number 8, incorrect rejection. Ang kinuha mong sample kulay puti. Puti pala yung buong sa population. So dapat inaccept mo yung sinasabi ng sampling mo. Pero dahil wala kang tiwala, hindi mo kinuha. Kumuha ka pa ng panibago dito. Nakita mo puti pa rin. So kaya ka lang tumama dahil kumuha ka pa ng pangalawa. Hindi ka na naging efficient kasi ang efficient dapat mabilis. Di ba? Diyan, nagdoble ka pa ng trabaho, tama naman pala yung nakuha mong una. Hindi ka naniwala, kumuha ka pa ng pangalawang sample, tsaka mo lang napatunayang tama pala yung sinasabi ng unang sample mo. So, ang naapektuhan dyan ay efficiency. Letter C. Okay? Next. While performing a test of details during an auditor determined that sample results supported the conclusion that record account balances was materially misstated. It was in fact not materially misstated. Sabi mo, materially misstated siya, pero sa totoo pala, hindi siya materially misstated. Hindi pala siya materially misstated. Anong uri ng risk ang ginawa mo? Pinaliwanag ko na sa'yo. Dapat tinanggap mo, pero hindi mo tinanggap kasi nga, kala mo mali, pero tama naman pala. So, letter C, incorrect rejection. Okay? Di ba yan yung pinaliwanag ko kanina? Next. Refers to the likelihood that the auditor or the audit procedures did not fail. Likelihood na hindi nagpa-fail yung audit procedure mo, syempre, meron ka diyang confidence. Okay? So letter A, level of confidence. Number 11. According to PSA 530, the purpose of substantive procedure is, so ano daw ang purpose ng substantive procedure? A, to determine how the internal policy and procedures are applied. B, to lend hindsight about financial information disclosed in financial statements. C, to obtain audit evidence to detect material misstatements in the financial statements. And D, the evaluation of plausible relationship among both financial and non-financial data. So dahil substantive procedure yan, punta ka sa detection of material misstatement, letter C. Ito kasi analytical procedure di ba? Ito naman test of controls. So letter C. Okay? Next number 12. According to PSA 530, when designing audit procedures, the auditor should determine appropriate means of selecting items for testing. The means available to auditor are the following, except, so ano ang pwede mong gamitin sa pagkuha ng appropriate or to determine the appropriate means of selecting items for testing or sampling. Okay? So ano ang hindi mo ginagamit sa mga yan? A, selecting all items, 100%, pinakamaganda yan. Hindi ka mag-sampling, di ba? Lahat, gagamit lahat, i-audit mo. Pagka kasi nagsasampling ka, kukuha ka lang ng sample size. Meron kang sample na representative ng buong population. Kung buong population lang i-audit mo, maganda na yon. Selecting specific items, o syempre, ayan nga yung sample. Selecting several items, hindi kasama yan sa iyong means. Okay? So, and audit sampling, syempre, yun nga, kasama yung audit sampling. So letter C. Actually, ito nga yung mga means available to the auditor. Selecting all items, selecting specific items, and audit sampling. Letter C ang hindi kasama. So C ang tamang sagot kasi hindi siya kasama. Okay? Number 13. The auditor may decide to select items from a population based on such factors as knowledge of the client's business, preliminary assessment of inherent and control risk, and the characteristics of the population being tested. The judgmental selection of a specific item is subject to non-sampling risk. Specific selected may include ano ang hindi tama sa mga yan. Incorrect statement. Okay? A, low value or key items. B, all items over a certain amount. C, items to obtain information. And D, items to test procedures. So D, C, and B are all correct except letter A, low value items. Dapat yan ay high value. Okay? So mali ang letter A. Yan ang tama. Next, number 14. An advantage of using statistical over non-statistical sampling methods in tests of controls is that the statistical methods are blank. So ano ang tama dyan? Ano daw ang advantage ng paggamit ng statistical method over non-statistical method of sampling? A, can more easily convert the sampling into a dual-purpose test useful for substantive testing. B, eliminate the need to use judgment in determining appropriate sample size. C, afford greater assurance that a non-statistical sample of equal size. And D, provide an objective basis for quantitatively evaluating sample risk. So actually, D lang ang tama. Si A, si B, at si C ay mali. Okay? Next, number 15. Which of the following is necessary to determine sample size? Ano daw ang mga kailangan sa pag-determine ng sample size? Population size, expected population deviation rate, estimated population monetary error, or risk. Ano ang tamang sagot? So, karaniwan dyan na necessary in determining sample size ay yung risk. Kung gaano ka-risky yung iyong i-audit. Pagka mas risky, mas malaking sample size ang kukuhanin mo. Kapag less risky, kahit maliit lang na sample size, pwede mo nang pagbasihan. Okay? So, letter D. Number 16, an advantage of statistical sampling is that statistical sampling help an auditor to blank. Ano ang natutulong sa auditor ng statistical sampling? A, eliminate the risk of non-sampling errors. B, reduce the level of audit risk and materiality to a relative low amount. C, measure the sufficiency of the evidential matter obtained. And D, minimize the failure to detect errors and fraud. So ang tamang sagot kapag pinag-uusapan ay yung advantage ng statistical risk, statistical sampling is it measure the sufficiency of evidential matter obtained. Letter C. Okay. Number 17. As per PSA 530, the auditor should evaluate the sample results to determine whether the preliminary assessment of the relevant characteristic of the population is confirmed or needs to be revised. If the evaluation of sample results indicates that the preliminary assessment of the relevant characteristics of the population needs to be revised, the auditor may, ano ba pwede niyang gawin, except, so ang hinahanap, yung hindi niya pa pwedeng gawin. Lahat yan ay pa pwede niyang gawin, maliban sa isa. Okay? A, request management to investigate identified errors and the potential for further errors and to make any necessary adjustment. Tama yan, pa pwedeng gawin ng auditor yan. B, modify planned audit procedures. For example, in the case test of control, the auditor might increase the sample size, test an alternative control, or modify related substantive procedures. Okay din yan. C, consider the effect on the audit report. Siyempre, kasama yan. Ang hindi mo lang pa pwedeng gawin, withdraw from the engagement. Hindi karaniwang ginagawa yan. Okay? So, letter D. Okay? So, that ends PSA 530.
For more ICCT College's video updates, please subscribe and click the notification button.